Hi subscribers, welcome to video 1 for Capricorn 2014. This is about the winter solstice and the sun's time in Capricorn for the month beginning on December 21st, about 3 o'clock Pacific time, Sunday, December 21st. I'm going to talk about some aspects and what's going on with the sun activating the Pluto-Uranus aftermath of square number 6 from last week. But I want to talk about the winter solstice in some different perspectives. If you heard the radio show from December 17th, I talked after my Christmas poetry that I'm a little embarrassed about sharing, but anyway, the satirical poems. But after that, I talk about, the giant flashlight in the sky coming to the lens of Saturn, and how that invites us to look at where we are as a long-term project and how we relate to that notion of progress. Do we judge ourselves because we're not in a certain place yet, or because we haven't done something? Do we feed regret and shame and perhaps guilt because we haven't done something we think we should do? So with the sun coming to Capricorn, the highlight is on should, all the shoulds that we can use and rely upon to define our lives and define our perception of how our lives are going. So there is this element of the rebirth of the solar principle when it gets here. And I talked on the show about how we kind of have two astrological new years. Very obviously, the vernal equinox, March 21st, 22nd, when the sun hits the Aries point, 0 Aries. Ends its time in Pisces for the year and begins Aries again. Of course, that's one kind of cycle. Another one is to go through, to culminate with Sagittarius, meaning whatever we're doing is broadcast. It's manifest, it's real, it's out there, it's being shared, broadcast, the broadcasting and publishing idea that goes with Sagittarius. And then focus on priorities, focus on what's actually happening and how it's going, kind of a status report, check-in report. That's the judging a critique-oriented nature of Saturn energy that when the sun hits Capricorn, we go through every year. So for a lot of people, and I talked about this last year for those of you who are here, a lot of people were running around in circles in December, to the point that when the solstice happens, 20th, 21st, 22nd, we're in full gear because people are running around because of the holidays that come after that. So some people have time off work, but a lot of people are, and of course time off school, but a lot of people are in this kind of, hamster wheel, running in circles. This is one of the reasons that people get sick at this time of year. It's less about the weather, it's more about being run down. It's more about feeling that our inner reserves are not being tended. Our immunity isn't strong. And that's because when the sun hits Capricorn, we need quiet inner time. Capricorn is the sign of the hermit. So I notice every year, my rhythm, my life changes a bit because of the Capricornian impulse. And I kind of get thrown into kind of somewhere between the shallow end and the deep end of inner reflection. Now, Capricorn is my IC, so whenever the sun hits Capricorn in my 3rd house, it kind of implies that it's going to the IC, which is this marker of inner quiet time. And of course, my North Node is in the 4th house, so that draws me into my evolution, the quieter I am. I work on it. I really work on it. So the solar principle, creativity, is a lot of what we talk about with that, at least I certainly have over the years. But the solar principle is also the organizing principle of your personality. So as outside, so inside, right? Updating the as above, so below deal with astrology, the old maxim. So what's happening outside you is what's happening in, is reflective of what's happening inside. I talk about that in terms of being energetic beings who are broadcasting commands to the universe and creating our lives as we go. But it's also true that when the solar principle, the sun is the center of the solar system, the sun is also the center of your own energy field. So you may not have anything in Capricorn, but when the sun, the transiting sun, hits Capricorn, it's time for all of us to focus on that theme. So there's a sense of the rebirth of the solar principle. Reorganization, perhaps, of one's creative energies or creative impulse, and how you identify who you are. And that brings me back to this idea of, do you judge where you're not? Do you judge where you haven't yet gotten? Do you hold yourself accountable in a tisk-tisk or shaming way for what you haven't yet achieved, that you maybe always thought you wanted to do, or that you were on